I'm Basi Legani Tafshin Chav Beis. We're in the middle of Seif Vav. We're holding where it says V'zehu Gam. First word on the line is Ha'amiti. In this contrast, page Chaf. Page Chaf, got it? So the Rabbi is speaking about Dinyan Avodah in Seif, and in this part of the Maimer, the Rabbi applies it to Avodah Sa'adam, speaking about how high does a person's Avodah reach. So what we learned before was the Vart of the Magid beneged to the Gemara that says that the Ma'is of Tzadikim is greater than the creation of heaven and earth, Yesh Ma'in. And the point that Rabbi explained is that because of the Eibishter's Bechira, every Yid has a koyach to reach to Atzmos. Even though l'chayre in our Metzias, in our experience, we could only serve the Eibishter as far as our Metzias could go. A person can't reach further than what he could do, than his Shayrish, than how anything that's Shayach that leads to his Metzias. But nevertheless, Mitzad Eibishter's Bechira that also shines into our Metzias, we could connect to Atzmos, we could sense that connection to Atzmos here in this world, in our Avodah in this world. So the Rebbe continues here with the word of the Baal Shem Tov, b'negeya to Shabbos. Let's see. V'zeu gam, this is also connected due to this word here. Shadei klolis in Avodah, that a Yid through his Avodah nasa inyan Shabbos. So when you work every day of the week, you come to the seventh day, which is Shabbos. The Gemara says, "Mi shetorach be'erev Shabbos yochel b'Shabbos." Someone that works and prepares before Shabbos has what to eat in Shabbos. She'enyanim menucha. And what is Shabbos? The union of Shabbos is rest, tranquility. Kamay merazal, as the Medrash says, Rashi brings it. Ma'aya ilam chaser. What was the world lacking when David created the world? Menucha. The world was lacking menucha. Ba Shabbos, ba menucha. When Shabbos comes, so it brings into the world rest. That's why it says Vayonach. That's why it says that Vayachal Kim Bayom Hashvi. So that's the question of the Gemara that Rashi also speaks about. Why did it say the Eibishter finished on the seventh day? If the Eibishter did not do anything on the seventh day, the answer is he didn't. But on the seventh day, there was an important thing added to the world that it was lacking before that. What was the world lacking? Menucha. That's why it says the Eibishter finished B'yom HaShvi. Okay, now the point here is, before we go further, you see here, according to what it says in the Gemara, in the Medrash, it will come out as follows. That what kind of a menucha is the menucha of Shabbos? The menucha of Shabbos is the type of menucha that relates to a person that needs that menucha. Because he's so worn out, because he's so tired of working a whole week. So what happens? You work, you prepare, and you have what you need, and now you can take a rest, you can enjoy what you've prepared. Right. So this is what's called a menucha in relation to the melacha. It's not a emes menucha, because it's a menucha that a person needs because of the hard work. That's what it sounds like. The Gemara is saying it, right? What kind of level of menucha is Shabbos? Shabbos is because of such hard work a whole week, so you need that menucha. You should need that rest on the seventh day. Right? Lahavdil, right? What the world refers to as a weekend. So you have the whole work week and work day, and then you have to push it to rest. Lahavdil, nothing to do with Shabbos at all. But the point here is that similar, the concept of menucha that it seems like we're talking about is a menucha related to malacha. There's malacha, there's menucha, right? But the Rabbi here will bring from the Baal Shem Tov that this is not so. The menucha we're talking about is a completely different type of menucha. You do a Torah Baal Shem Tov. So it's known what the Baal Shem Tov said. Shakadosh Baruch Hu nikra menucha. The menucha of Shabbos that we're talking about, and when it says that the Eibishter brought menucha into the world, it's the Eibishter that's called menucha. The Fishel shayach by tnua shinuyim. By the Eibishter himself, it's not possible b'chlal to be any movement or any changes. The concept of movement is only possible by something which is within the framework of time or space. Regarding time, what's time? Time is that it's past, present, and future. So the very existence of time is the concept of change. From this we can understand regarding space that is connected to time. Those are the two intrinsic limitations of the existence of the world. So even though we can't see the concept of shinui in the inyan of Zman in the same way as we see in Mokim, that is, in the same way that we see it regarding Zman, but Mokim is the same thing. The whole concept of Mokim is that I'm here and not there. I'm limited to this spot. So this is a Metzias that exists within the framework of Shinuyim. That's the Metzias of the world. Aval HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ein Sof. The Eibishter himself is endless. And therefore there's no movement. He doesn't have to move from one place to another. The Eibishter is also, besides the fact that there's no Mokim by the Eibishter, there's also no Zman. There's no before, after. And therefore the Eibishter himself is the true Menucha. V'sham ha-behir is gadol v'cholo. There in this Menucha is great, there's tremendous brightness, tremendous revelation. So this is the emes of Menucha. So you see here, what's the Baal Shem Tov saying? What's the concept of Menucha? Menucha doesn't mean a type of rest which has a shaykhis to a matzev where there's shinuyim. First of all, the point you see the Rebbe saying over here is that what's the opposite of Menucha? The opposite of Menucha is tnua, movement. Those are the two opposites here. So usually you have something which has a matzav of movement and a matzav of rest. It's shaykh for it to move, and when you move too often and too much, so it could be good for you to move around, but then eventually you get tired and then there's a matzav of menucha. It's two matzavim that have a shaykhs to one another. It's shaykh for you to be in a matzav of tnuah, but payil, you could stop, you can rest. That's when you're talking about a metzias that's within the framework of Zman and Mokim, where there's past, future, present, and there's shinuyim. Tnuah is also synonymous with shinuyim, changes. That's the concept of tnuah. There's a movement taking place, that it's not in one position always. So you have something that be'etzem, it's in a mode of tnuah. Be'etzem, its existence, it's changing. We're not only talking here about physical change, you're talking even more about ruchnisdige change, things that the chayis of a lakus that's shaykh to any darge within Seder Shtalshalus, there's a certain level of movement, there's a certain level of shinuyim that's shaykh. When we come to the Eibishter himself, it's not the pshat that the Eibishter has a matzav of tnuah, a matzav of shinuyim, and then a matzav where he decides not to move. Not shaykh b'chal to the whole inyan of tnuah. Right? It's not shaykh b'chal. When you say that the Eibishter is Ein Sof, what does Ein Sof mean? It doesn't mean that because the Eibishter is Ein Sof, so therefore he could spread himself out here, there, and everywhere. Les asar panim means what? That the Eibishter, the Chatchila, is higher than the Mokim. And then he could come down into a place where there's Mokim, and in Mokim Gufi he could be in every Mokim. Or if you want to speak about Mokim being every Darga, that he can be on this Darga, he can be on another Darga. That's when you're talking about something that's a defined existence. If it's a defined existence, so then there's a movement. It leaves one matziv, it comes to another matziv, one madrega, another madrega, one olam, another olam. And if it's a gili that's very powerful, it could be in two ilamis at the same time, 3 ilamis, 100 ilamis, bligvul ilamis. But what's the point? The point is that it's a chiddush that this oir is being mispashet to every single ilam. It's not that it's l'chatchila shayach everywhere. It comes here, it goes there, and it's mispashet to another place. That's all within the framework of shinuyim. That's all in India where there's tnuah, there's movement, there's a tfisis mokim to the musig of a darga and another darga. By the Eibishter himself, what's the real taich of les asar poniminei? L'chatchila, there is no musig of mokim. The Eibishter doesn't have to be mispashet anywhere. The Eibishter he is everything, and there is no mitzias of mokim b'chlal. By the mitzias of the Eibishter, there's l'chatchila, not shayach and ishinuyim b'chlal. There it's menucha, the etzem inyan of menucha, the true concept of menucha. So now, this level of menucha that there is by the Eibishter himself, this is the type of menucha that the Eibishter shined into the world when he created the seventh day. So what does it mean that the Eibishter creates the world? He creates Shabbos and then he brings menucha into the world. After the Eibishter completes creating all of Maaseh Bereishis, Hivik Hashem Yisbarach Behirazu. The Eibishter shined this brightness of the true source of menucha into the world. Shebebchinas menucha. This brightness that there is in the Eibishter's menucha. B'chinas hamoir, the source of light, the Eibishter himself. Shemimenu nimshach kol seder ishtalshelus habriya, which is the source of everything that comes out afterwards. Sherak roishim mimenu nishar ba'abriya atzma. There's only a roishim of the source that you can see in the world itself. Maybe this is referring to the inyan that the Rebbe spoke about before, the kayach habligvul that you could see in creation, but it's only a reishim. But then the Eibishter brings more than just a Reishim. There's a koyach of menucha that comes into the world every single Shabbos. And which menucha are we speaking about? The emes menucha, the Eibishter's menucha. And through the Eibishter shining this level of menucha into the world, this awakens, this arouses all Nevrayim to have a rotzen v'cheshek, or at least maybe refers to Yidden. It arouses within them a will, a desire, a tshuka, a yearning, to get elevated out of the limitations of the world, to experience this true menucha of the Eibishter. This is the meaning of the word vayechulu, that it's not only that the Eibishter completed creating heaven and earth and everything that's contained in it, but vayechulu miloshen kiloyin u'tshuka. This revelation of the Eibishter's menucha brings a kiloyin, that the Bria has a tshuka and a desire to expire, to become completely iced, to see the whole existence should be annulled, and a yearning to be one with the essence, with the menucha of the Eibishter in the world. That's the union of menucha of Shabbos. So what is the Baal Shem Tov saying here? Move on. From this Torah we understand the menucha that we're speaking about regarding Shabbos is the emes inyan of menucha, which is only shaykh by the Eibishter himself, where there's no movement possible whatsoever. There's no changes, there's no levels, there's nothing that's defined. The Eibishter is everything. He is it. Wherever he is, it's the Eibishter himself. So it's menucha. So the emes inyan menucha, that's what Shabbos is. Kimul vadoi, besides the Eibishter himself, l'shayach loymar inyan shal menucha la'ami tosai. You can't have the concept of menucha in its true, genuine sense, where there's no movement shayach whatsoever. Yeah. If you remember, we learned other Maimorim that speak about this Indian, and there it speaks about the fact that Shabbos actually has a few levels. There's 2 levels of Shabbos. Sometimes it says there's 3 levels of Shabbos. There's Maila de Shabbata, the night of Shabbos, Yom de Shabbata, the day of Shabbos. You remember such a thing? So usually it says the night of Shabbos, which comes following the day where the person, or the whole week where the person worked. That's a kind of a rest, which is coming not real rest. It's rest after a person is so tired out, so your body needs rest from that. And also beruchnius. It's an aliyah of eilamis following or as a result of all the Aveda. That Aveda brings you to rest. So what kind of a rest is that? If it's movement, if it's Aveda that causes the rest, so it's not rest ba'etzem. There's something that's causing this rest. What's causing the rest? The work itself is what's causing the rest. So it's all a rest that's generated by the work itself. It's not an emes of rest. And you have Yom de Shabbat, which is a rest that's be'etzem, removed of the work the next day. It's the Shabbos morning. There's a new gilui that's not related b'chlal to the work of the whole week. And then you have even more than that, the rest that there is by Raiv de Raiv in Shabbos afternoon. That's the highest, the peak, and the highest darga of Shabbos. That's usually the thing that it speaks about. Called Seder Negunim time to Chazer HaMaimer, and that's the time, that's the peak of Shabbos. Yeah, I know. For some reason, Mr. Welt, that last hours of Shabbos are not treated the way it's described in Zayar and Chassidus. Anyways, okay. So, here in the Maimer, the Rebbe is bringing the Vart to the Baal Shem Tov, and there's no divisions of different times in Shabbos. It's talking about the entire Shabbos, what Shabbos is, from the first moment to the last moment. That the union of Shabbos is the Eibishter shining into the world his menucha. It's not a menucha that's mitzad Welt, mitzad Nevrayim, it's the Eibishter bringing his menucha into the world. Now the chiddush though is that how does a person come to Shabbos, which is the Eibishter's menucha and the menucha of Atzmos, through the fact that Tarach B'erev Shabbos, through the fact that he worked B'erev Shabbos the 6 days, that Aveda brings about this Amshacha. So this is a contradiction of terms here. On one hand, we're talking about an emes menucha that's way beyond anything a person can reach or do. And yet at the same time, we're saying you only come to this menucha through your work 6 days a week. How do these 2 things go together? So this is related to the vart that the Maggid said before. When you get to the Aveda V'yid. On one hand, we say the Aveda V'yid could only reach to his Shayrish Makar, or to something that has a shaykhis to what he's doing. Something that could be affected by his Aveda. On the other hand, we say that a Yid reaches to Atzmus U'Mahos, to the essence of the Eibishter himself. The Eibishter was Beicher, the Aveda of a Yid, Yidin Bechlal, Teiro Mitzvahs, and therefore Yid connects to Atzmus. It seems like over here in the Baal Shem Tov, you see the same 2 concepts that are On one hand, we're saying the Avodah of a Yid is limited. A Yid lives in a place where there's man, mokim, tnuah, movement, shinuyim, all these terminologies that refers to our metzias, or it defines our type of metzias that we experience. At the same time, we're saying this Avodah here in our metzias, in this world, in our reality, brings you to a connection to Atzmos, to the essence of the Eibishter, to Emes Menucha. Why? Why is that? So the Rebbe doesn't bring it back again, the point, but it's connected to the Vart of the Magid, that Or Mein Amor. The concept of Or Mein Amor, in short, is about transferring over, bringing, you have the Koyach of the Eibishter's Mohos, who the Eibishter is, in our Metzias. Or is that Gilui, but it's a kind of Gilui that does not separate and does not detach from the source. Adarabah, it's a Gilui that the source is revealed in it, fully revealed in it. Into Metzias, into a place where it's, so to speak, outside of the Eibishter's reality, into the reality of Giluyim and Welt, and there you have the Eibishter's Emes Bli Gvul that comes down. Al Derech Zeh, the Avodah of a Yid in this world, the Avodah of a Yid has the Kayach to connect to the Emes Bli Gvul of the Eibishter. Over here the Rebbe is speaking about Emes Menucha of the Eibishter. That's the Chayre the Vart the Rebbe is saying here. When the Rebbe actually said the Maimer, this whole Seif, the Seder, the way the Rebbe said it, was in the reverse. The Rebbe started off with the Vart of, I believe, I'm pretty sure about this, I heard the tape. The Rebbe started off with the Vart of the Baal Shem Tov, about Shabbos, and then afterwards the Rebbe came to the Vart of the Magid that he says before. Because here when the Rebbe says the Vart of the Baal Shem Tov, the Rebbe sort of starts off with a question, not mamish befedish, but the Rebbe is sort of starting off with a question. And the Rebbe never answers it. And the reason is because the Varts of the Magid came afterwards, and the Hezber for the Baal Shem Tov's Vart is in the Vart of the Magid. That's not what I'm saying. The Baal Shem Tov is saying the two opposites. On one hand, it's Torach Be'erev Shabbos. On the other hand, it's Menucha Be'etzem. Where is there a connection here? The Hezber is in the Vart that the Rebbe explained already before, that you have the Kayach of the Avodah of the Yid, and the Avodah of the Yid could connect to Atzmos. If you look at a Yid mitzad his mitzias and his akbalas, you can't connect to Atzmos. It's a different reality. What shaykhs do you have to this Bechlal? Mitzad the Eibishter's Bechira shines down. Eibishter's Bechira is taka a different reality, but mitzad through Oir it shines down into our mitzias. This is also the lashon of the Baal Shem Tov. When the Baal Shem Tov says this lashon of Hivik Hashem Yisbarach Behira Zu. I don't know the exact translation of Hivik. Hivik means that the Eibishter shines out. The Eibishter shines out His brightness. So we're talking about the Gilui, the way it comes out to our Metzias.
You will explain what Menucha Be'etzem.
What Menucha Be'etzem means. If there's something that is in one place, you're shaykh to this place, you're shaykh to this matziv, so in order for you to get to a different matziv, into a different place, so then you have to work, you have to leave here, you have to go there, so there's movement, there's tnuah. And then you have a person, once he arrives to a certain place, he's comfortable here, he feels happy here. This is a place which, whether begashmius, whether beruchnius, whether emotionally, whether it doesn't make a difference. But even a person that arrives to a certain location in matzav where he feels comfortable there and he's restful, is that real restfulness? It's not real restfulness. A certain matzav, it's certain circumstances, it's certain external things, or maybe even internal things that's causing him to feel restful here. That's not real rest. And then it'll go by an hour, or maybe even a day, or let's say even a year, or let's say even 5 years, and he won't feel restful here. He's going to feel that he has to go somewhere else. Why? Because even when he was there, for that period of time that he was there, he was never be'emes restful there. A nivra, there's no such a thing as real rest. It could be a certain matziv that causes the rest, and so on. By the Eibishter, he never went from here to there. There's no movement in the first place. He is everywhere. Be'etzem. The Eibishter is be'etzem everywhere. So you can't say there's a certain matziv or there's a certain thing that causes rest. That now here, this is his place. It's not his place. That's not pshat over here. It's but the place came from him. Not he comes to the place. Even Bligvul. Even when you talk about Bligvul, it's also not the real Indian of rest. Why not? Because Bligvul, when it comes to a place where it's Gvul, it doesn't find its place. It doesn't know how to be together with Gvul. Gvul can't be with Bli Gvul. There's nothing on any level of a Gili that you could say that it is Be'etzem. And therefore there's nothing that makes it sort of feel uncomfortable, so to speak, for the lack of a better term. Hashem Ken the Eibishter, wherever he is, he's there. He's fully there. Be'etzem. He's not just being masim. He's not connecting to any place and detaching and leaving and coming and going. All these l'shainis are not shayach by the Eibishter.
So what happens on Shabbos then? Is that what the Eibishter was saying?
Yeah, so when the Eibishter creates the world, so b'dvar havai shemayim nasu. So this is a level of creation that comes through a tzimtzum, through a gilui, through a certain pu'ula, which is not the etzem of the Eibishter. That's what creation is. So what is nirgash? What's our experience that we feel in creation? What the Eibishter gave us. The Eibishter gave us through tzimtzum a whole mitzias that feels that, there's a maila, there's a mata, there's dal druchais, and there's the dismitzias of the world. On Shabbos, the Eibishter shined into the world a little bit from himself, so to speak. Hivik, the Eibishter shined into the world true menucha of himself, the emes inyan of menucha. And that a yid, when you rest on Shabbos, you could connect to that emes of restfulness. True.
Even though it seems that the term menucha is contradictory to Zman HaMakom.
Yeah, and the Chanami, that's the whole chiddush, correct. Menucha and Zman HaMakom, according to what it menucha mitis. Emes menucha and Zman HaMakom do not go together. A menucha that's created because of a certain time period or a certain space is not emes menucha. That's a menucha that was caused by something. A menucha ba'etzem. Could be menucha, could be not menucha. Now you feel menucha, soon you won't feel menucha. Mashenkin by the Eibishter, because there's lachatchila no musag of Zman HaMakom, there's no movement, so there's emes menucha. In Welt, in the Akbalas, and in the Metzias of Welt, the Eibishter shine in the inyan of menucha. Yeah. V'zeu gam. Okay, just another few lines there. V'zeu gam hamavuer be-drushe chassidus. This concept also is what's explained in Chassidus. Shabbos ulamayla mazman. Shabbos is above time. Shabbos is not just another day of creation. It's the seventh day. It's above time. What's the raya for this? Because this is the reason why we say b'chol shavua hayom yom rishon chulu. Every Sunday we say again, today is the first day. How can we say today is the first day? So the Chassidus always asks a question. It's not the first day. Whatever number day it is from creation, that's what it is. What's this concept of counting a week? So the way it exists in Welt, so it's in order to create a certain cycle of existence or a certain normalcy, a certain system of how to relate to time. So it's just easier if you divide it into weeks, months, years, and so on. But what makes today?
I still don't use the terminology of Rishon.
Right. It's just Sunday, Monday, and so on. Right. But in Torah we use the term of Yom Rishon. So the reason is because it's Taka Yom Rishon. It's a new Zman. You're starting again, totally new Maisa Bereshis. Why? Shabbos itself is totally above Zman. And when we say that Shabbos is above time, this includes even the most subtle concept of time. Going back to what the Rebbe said before, what's the source of the concept of time? Even in a place where there isn't, or in a level where you don't actually have time the way it functions and exists in this world, but the concept of time means this movement, this change. So you have to go to a level where it's not shaykh b'chlal to the inyan of Zman. That's higher than any level of revelation. The Rebbe brings over here more pratim to this. We'll see. When the Maimon Basi Lagani Tafshin Chav Beis, towards the end of Seif Vov. The last point we learned was about Shabbos. Vart the Baal Shem Tov. That Shabbos is a day of menucha, and the Chazal tell us that the reason why it says in the Torah Vayechal Elokim B'Yom HaShvi is because the Eibishter completed creation on the seventh day. Because until Shabbos there was no menucha in the world. Ba Shabbos, ba menucha, and that brings a shleimus to the world. So the Baal Shem Tov explains what this means is the real source of menucha. Emes menucha is when you have a place where it's not shaykh b'chlal for there to be any movement, any tnuah. Any other dargah that there is in Giluyim, where there's some kind of a movement, some kind of shinuyim, you don't have menucha be'etzem. You don't have the emes inyan of menucha. Could be that there's a temporary menucha according to that matzav, according to this level over here, so not as menucha. But the emes inyan of menucha by be'etzem, which is not shaykh b'chal to any inyan of shinuyim, that's only by the Eibishter himself. So according to this, the chiddush of Chazal that tell us that the Eibishter brought this menucha in the world is that this is not just a menucha by atzmos, but this menucha, the Eibishter shines into the world on Shabbos. The Eibishter brings into the world this inyan of menucha that everyone could experience and have the menucha on Shabbos on this level. Okay, so now the Rebbe brought, let's turn it again inside. This is a chiddush that the Rebbe says, Zehu gam. Zehu gam hamavur bedrusha chassidus. Where there's a 79. So this idea that Shabbos is the emes inyan of menucha, so this is what's explained in Drusha Chassidus. Shabbos ulamayla mazman. Shabbos is a day in the week. It's not just a seventh day, but it's actually a time that's above time. Got it? Yeah? And therefore every week we say, today we said, that today is the first day. So why is it called the first day? From the time of creation, it should have been whatever number day it is from then. Why do we keep on repeating and calling it the first, second, and third day, and so on? Because Sunday, it Akatake starts a new Zman. We begin again the first day of Maisa Bereshis. And the reason is because the day before, which is Shabbos, is above time. And here's the Rebbe's Chiddush, the Rebbe adds to this, that when we say that Shabbos is above time, it includes even the highest form of time that exists above the time here, the way we know it. In other words, going back to the Vart of the Baal Shem Tov, the union of Menucha, where there's absolutely no movement, no change whatsoever. The concept of time, even before you have time the way it is in this world, is a concept of movement and change. Be higher than the Sheidish of Zman. What does it mean higher than the Sheidish of Zman? Only by Atzmos, by the Eibishter himself, do you not even have a source for Zman. And any other Dargeh, even if you don't have actual Zman the way it is in this world, but there's an Inyan of Zman there, on some level. So Shabbos is the aliyah to a place where it's completely removed from Zman. So if you look in Order 79, they're mitzayin to Lekutei Torah, Shir HaShirim, where the Alter Rebbe says this vart about Shabbos being l'mayla min hazman. But there, the Alter Rebbe actually says what it means is that Shabbos is aliyah sa'elamis to elam atzilus. Elam atzilus is l'mayla min hazman. That's the way it's usually quoted. Over here, the Rebbe is saying that it's an aliyah to atzmos, to a place where there's menucha be'etzem, which is totally removed of the union of zman, not just act as zman the way it exists in Elam Asiyah Gashmis, on any of the other levels. In Atzilus as well, there's also an union of zman. Not the zman the way it is here, but there's a concept of zman there and on the level of Atzilus. Here the Rebbe is saying a deeper pshat, that we're referring to atzmos. That's the emes inyan of l'mayla ma'azman. Hine Yedua, so the Rebbe here brings the source of this concept of Zman. Shekaydim linyan Zman, before you have actual Zman, the way it is in this world, Yesh Negam Seder Zmanim. There's something referred to as the order of time. There's the Shemimenu Nimshach Zman de Lamata. From this comes the actual time here below. So the concept of time, besides the fact that time is Shinuyim, that this changes, time means that this second and the next second and the next second are all separated from one another. Zman is the ultimate concept of hischalkus. Just like in Mokim, in space, so there's this space and the next space and the next space, and they cannot be hiskalus one with another. Every space has its space that it takes up. The same thing, Zman, the whole idea of Zman is that there's a hischalkus. What's this second is not the next and is not the next. Even though l'chayre, there's a certain hemshech in Zman, and it's in that sense, you could look at Zman as like one big nekuda, as one continuous existence. But the Zman, the way it exists in this world, every second or every minute, whatever it is another moment. It's not one thing. There's a eschalkus. That's Zman in this world. Say the Zmanim is the source of the concept of Zman, but where the different madregis of Zman are together as one. They're not hischalkus from one another. L'moshel, you have l'mayla, the hischalkus of the spheres, the hischalkus of chesed, gvura, teferes, the hischalkus of spheres, in Olam Atzilus. But over there, in Olam Atzilus, all these spheres, there's an achtus between them. They're not distinct, they're not separated from one another. The Olam Atzilus is called an Olam Achtus. So even if there is a hischalkus, there is organized already, a certain seder of what's each tzir, each level, but nevertheless there's a unity between them. So that's the concept of Seder Zmanim before it comes down to the hischalkus of Zman in this world. I'm just translating the words. There's more about this. There's a Maimah from the Tzemach Tzedek where he explains this more about Riches. Then there's a source of Zman that's even higher than that. Vadla Inyan de Rotzi V'Shuv. Concept of Rotzi V'Shuv benegeh to the Chayas in the world. So Rotzi V'Shuv is used in a lot of different places in the different contexts. Over here, he's speaking about Rotzi V'Shuv, benegeh to the Chayas of the Eibishter that comes into the world. Chayas of the Eibishter comes, b'derech Rotzi V'Shuv, that it yearns to go back to the source, it reconnects to the source, and then it comes down here into the world. That's the Taich of Rotzi V'Shuv there. In other words, the Chayis does not come directly without, because there's two opposite Tnuas in this Chayis. The Chayis that has to come into the world, on one hand, it has to settle here, has to relate to this existence in the world. At the same time, though, the Chayis, in order for it to be Chayis, has to be connected to the source of Chayis. So it has to constantly return, and so to speak, get energy from the source. Or maybe it's like an electrical current. I'm not sure if that's a good mashal or not. That constantly, it's not in one place. It doesn't come vizehu. It has to constantly get the source from energy to be able to give the electricity. Al derech zeh, the chayis l'mayla, you see, is in the oifen of Ratzi V'Shuv. And this Ratzi V'Shuv, you have it also in the person. The way the chayis within the human body is also an oifen of Ratzi V'Shuv. The heart, the fact that the heart is constantly pumping, and the chayis is not that comes out v'zehu. There's a constant Ratzi V'Shuv in the person. And the chayis l'mayla by the Eibush is also Ratzi V'Shuv. So the reason why it has to be Ratzi V'Shuv is because the chayis that comes into the world is every moment an accomplishment of two opposite things. On one hand, it has to be connected to the source of life, and at the same time has to relate that life to the physical life of this world. The physical life that we see is not real life. That's not the source of life. The fact that a physical thing has life in it, that's the essence of what life is. That's when a physical thing has movement, so that's physical life. That's not the source of life. Source of life is way beyond any physical being, b'chlal. So that the Ratzi V'Shuv is to bring the source of life into the physical metzius in the world. So therefore the Chayis comes in this way, V'Ratzi and Shuv. That's the source of Zman. Then Mati V'Loi Mati. There's something that's even higher than Ratzi V'Shuv. Sounds very similar to Ratzi V'Shuv, but it's not the same inyan. Mati literally means that it comes out, or the lashon that's used sometimes is hispashtus, when it extends out. Mati is when there's a hispashtus, there's a gilui, and V'loi Mati means tzimtzum, or histalkus, when it returns, when it's removed. She'inyin zeh yeshnei l'mayla, so this inyan of Ratzi V'Shuv and Mati V'loi Mati, you have l'mayla ad b'oyer ein sof. Even in Oyer Ein Sof, in the highest darga of revelation of Oyer, so you have these madreges of Ratzi V'Shuv and Mati V'Loi Mati, which means that they're shaykh to Zman. Because the Sheidish of Zman starts with Seder Zmanim, and the Sheidish of Seder Zmanim starts with Ratzi V'Shuv, because the chayis of the Eibush in the world has these two opposite tnuas in it, of Ratzi V'Shuv, so that's the source of the concept that it comes and goes, and therefore that in our world gets translated into the concept of Zman, where every moment comes and leaves. So over here, mizeh muvan, she'inyin ha-menucha de Shabbos, shalamayla, meklalis inyin ha-Zman. When it comes to the menucha of Shabbos, which is above the entire concept of time, not just time in this world, gam kefi shazman hu ba'ofen hayoser nayla, including the concept of Zman as it exists in the most subtle level. Shezeh inyin shel ha'or v'gilui. Any time you're if you're in any level, that is, of revelation, there's a concept of Zman there. Afilu ba'ofen shel shem, the highest level of revelation, which is the name of the Eibishter. There's the famous lashon that Chassidus brings before creation, that Hayahu u'shmoi bilvad, the name of the Eibishter, which is one with the Eibishter himself. So over here, the menucha of Shabbos is above any of these levels. It's only the essence of the Eibishter himself. That's the Gilui of Shabbos. Now the Chiddush here is further even, it's to this level that a person's Aveda reaches. How do you come to Shabbos? Only through the work that you do 6 days in the week. One that prepares and works before Shabbos has what to eat on Shabbos. So this concept of preparing shows that the Aveda of a Yid, which is in the Sheish Yimei HaChayil, L'Chayre, Shaykh to say the Rishtal and a Yid can't reach beyond that. But nevertheless, through our Aveda, we come to the Kedusha of Shabbos, which is from Atzmos, totally unrelated to the person. This concept here, I mean, this is the Rebbe spoke about this Kama Pomim, the stira that there is, that on one hand, Chazal tell us, Shabbos is Mekatsha V'Kaima. The Kedusha of Shabbos is Befedish, not dependent on us below. Regardless of what a person does, the Kedusha of Shabbos on the 7th day of the week is going to be there from the time of creation. Unlike a Yom Tif, which the Bezdin has to be Mekadosh the day of the Chaydish to establish on what day the Kedusha of the Yom Tif will come. That's on one hand. On the other hand, Chazal tell us, Misha Tarach Be'erev Shabbos Yechol B'Shabbos. showing that a person has a certain involvement in bringing about this Kedusha of Shabbos, or bringing about the experience of Shabbos. What's this inyan? So the Pashtus, you would say that the answer to this is, it depends. Mitzad the etzem inyan of the Kedusha of Shabbos being on this day, yeah, that comes mol ma'ila. The Yidden do not cause and generate this Kedusha on this day. That's mol ma'ila, from the Eibishter. But in order for you to experience it, the Lashon is yoichal b'Shabbos. In order for you to eat and to experience the Kedusha of Shabbos, for that you have to have a certain achana. Without a achana, the Gilim Mulmaila doesn't relate to you. There's no recipient that could experience this. Okay, so that's Pasha. That's the teretz for this Maimah Chazal. But over here, the Rebbe is saying a different shot. That the Bisha Tarach Be'erev Shabbos Yechol B'Shabbos is telling you that even though we're talking about Shabbos that comes from Atzmus Mahos, this concept of Shabbos Mekatsha V'Kaima means that it's a Kedusha that's not shaykh to any level of Nevraim. It's a Menucha Be'etzem that's from the essence of the Eibishter. So if so, l'chayra, this is a level that's not shaykh to the Aveda of Nevraim. Come Chazal and tell us that no, that even this could reach you, could come down, and a person does have a koyach to connect to Atzmos. Misha Torach Be'erev Shabbos, Yechol B'Shabbos, that mitzad the Bechira of the Eibishter, and through the Eir, Me'en Amor, that the Eibishter shines down into our Metzias, a Yid is able to do Aveda, to come to this Menucha of Shabbos. The Rebbe actually says in a Sikha, a similar word to the Mon, that you also see two opposites regarding the Mon. On one hand, the Mon is Lechem and Hashemayim. It's completely L'maylim and Ateva, there's nothing a person has to do for it whatsoever, totally. Unlike Lechem and Haaretz, which comes through the person's work from below. On the other hand, even the Mon, which was Lechem and Hashemayim, there was some kind of work that the person had to do to collect the Mon, to pick up the Mon. And the Gemara tells us that it depends who it was. It's tzaddikim, it came right by their doorstep. Beinanim had to go out to collect it. Rishayim had to go further away, outside the machna, to go and find it. So you see that there are chilukim over here in the way the recipient received the man. So the Rebbe teaches, it doesn't mean that shows that the man is on a darge where the Avodas Adam has a tfisas makim. The man comes from a level where the mitzias of the person matters, and therefore it came to everybody on their level. It's not what it means. But man comes lechem min hashemayim, completely. And no shaykhis b'chlal to the mitzias of the avodah of a person. Comes from a darga, from atzmos, from the Eibishter himself, and that's why regarding the real chiddush of lechem min hashemayim, the man, is not the fact that it came in hashemayim. Of course it came in hashemayim. Chiddush of the man is that even when it's lamata, it retained its nature of being shamayim the food. You ate it, and the way it got digested in the body was like it was spiritual food. There was no psilus that came from it, and it remained in its nature of shamayim here below. That's the chiddush. When you have something that's not at all affected by Elia and Tachten, by Maila, by Mata, by all these levels. Why? Because it's the essence of the Eibishter. So then it's even lamata. It remains lechem and hashemayim. So if that's what man in essence is, it's mamish agili from atzmos, so then why is there an inyan of Avodas Adam b'negei to man? So the Rebbe says a similar point to what it says here, b'negei to Shabbos. Just like we say b'negei to Shabbos, that Shabbos is totally l'maylam and azman. Yet at the same time we say, but in this gufa, the Eibishter gave us the koyach to do Aveda to connect to this. It's the same thing with the man. The fact that there's Aveda, that you have to go and collect this man and eat it, even the very fact that they had to eat it and digest it. So that itself is showing you, is telling you that even this man, which is min hashamayim, completely, atzmos, the essence of the Eibishter, but yet a yid could be a keli and collect this and bring this into his pneumius. That's the two hafchim that you find by Shabbos, by man, and in fact the Rebbe points out that you to see that the man and Shabbos go together, because the first time in Torah where it speaks about Shabbos is b'negei to the man. That's the first time you find any halachas regarding Shabbos, and there's a halacha that I think it's brought in Shulchan Aruch as well, from Rabbi Sadia Goin, that what happens if a person is traveling on the road somewhere and he doesn't know which parsha of the week it is? What should he do? You should learn Parsha Saman. So the man also expresses the same meaning that the Rebbe speaks about over here.
Usually higher than that, because there's
the what? I didn't hear.
Tchias HaMesim. It's higher because there's en achila ve'en shtia.
Right, lasad lavai.
It's even higher than man.
Yeah, the ruchnis itself will be the achila shtia. Yeah, let's continue inside. So the Rebbe now concludes the inyan. Zeh klalos ha'inyan hamavur b'siv zeh. So this is a general point that the Friedrich Rebbe explains in this If Yud Beis, In order to understand what this level of Eitzer, this treasure, that the Eibishter reveals to us here below when we're fighting the war. And what's the how precious and how expensive and how high this treasure is. That's given to the generals in the army. And they're the ones that have to distribute this Eitzer to all the people, the soldiers that are fighting, the foot soldiers. So first the Friedrich Rebbe explains what's this inyan of Vayrin Seif Lamata Adin Tachlis, the revelation that comes below on every level. So this is the revelation of the Eibishter. The Eibishter extends and comes down to the lowest level. Even here below in Teilim Mizbiyah. And in this world where we see this bligvul of the Eibishter, it's not only in the great Nevrayim that exist Lamaila, Magodlu Masecha, which are the Nevrayim, as explained earlier in the Maimed, that you have the Tzvar Shamayim, the sun, the moon, the stars, that exist. Each one of them are Kayamim Be'ish, that each one of them exists with the same takeif that they wore when they were created. And you see the bligvul of the Eibishter in them. So it's not only regarding those Nevrayim, Elegam Beriboya Nevrayim. Also regarding the many, many Nevrayim that exist here below in this world. Marabu Masecha. That there you see the multiplicity and the endless amount of things that exist here in this world. Vaifan Shal Riboy Adei Mispar. That you see such a tremendous amount of Riboy that it's impossible to count. Every blade of grass, every leaf, every whatever it is in this world, that is a Riboy Adei Mispar. Shezawinyin Ein Saif Lamitosai. So this Morabu Masecha in this world here below, this is an expression of the emes inyan of Ein Saif, which the Rebbe emphasizes so many times in this Maimer. Ein Saif Lamitosai. Not an Ein Saif that's a description of a certain level, but the Ein Saif which is completely undefined. Ein Saif that has absolutely no description whatsoever. That is the Ein Saif that's expressed here in this world when we see the Riboy, the Morabu, in all the Riboy and Evrayim in this world. Mizeh Yuvan, and then just before I read further, Mizeh Yuvan, before the Rebbe said the Maimer, so there were a few sichas. The sicha right before the Maimer, the Rebbe said a very interesting story about this inyan of Morabu Masecha. This is one of the points that the Rebbe spoke about before in the Maimer, the Morabu Masecha in this world, and over here the Rebbe again mentions it. So the story was with the Rebbe Rashab that he was once learning at night with a chavrusa who was his chavrusa? I think Rav Mordechai Bespalov, Rav Motl Poltava, Rav in the city of Poltava. There's a famous niggin from him, the Poltava niggin. So he was sitting and learning with him, and in the room they were learning there. They just the Rebbe Rashab had one or two rooms in the house that he lived in. So the Friedrich Rebbe was also sleeping. He was a baby, and he was sleeping there in that room. The Rebbe stopped the middle of the story, and the Rebbe said that, if you tell a person that he should live in a house that has one or two rooms, it's like it's crazy. Like with a basement, with a roof, and with a hair, with this room and with that room, and interesting. Anyways, the side thing that Rebbe spoke about the lifestyle today, how it changed. But the Rebbe said, so the Rebbe Mordechai Bespalov was learning with the Friedrich Rebbe, and with the Rebbe Rashab that is, and he told the Rebbe Rashab that he's looking at the face of this child and he sees such a beauty on his face and such a heiligkeit, and you see the taras hamachshava that he was born with. So the Rebbe Rashab said that at that time, what the Friedrich Rebbe related from his father, that he said that at that time he had a chukah to go and give the child a kiss. But what he thought to himself that instead of giving him a kiss, he's going to give him a maimer instead. And what maimer did he give him? He gave him the maimer with the Bramaschel Morabu Masecha Hashem. This inyan, where he explained the Morabu Masecha, that when you look at the Morabu Masecha in this world, you see the Ein Sof of the Eibishter here in this world. That's the maimer that he said instead of this kiss that he wanted to give his son. So the Rebbe explained that with the inyan of a kiss is that it's something, it's an expression of love that's beyond words. It can't be defined in particular words and sentences. So it's bligvul. A kiss is a ava of bligvul. And he said when the Rebbe Rashab had the thought that instead of a kiss he's going to say this maimer of Marab Masecha, it was going up a level, even higher. He didn't decide, I'm not going to give the kiss, and instead I'll say a maimer which is lower than the kiss. No fakat. He said, you know what, I'm going to do even greater than the kiss, to be megala what it says in this mimer. Why? Because this nekuda of marava masecha, being megala, this inyan, that you can see the Ein Sof, the emes Ein Sof of the Eibishter here in the Rabbi and Ephraim in this world, that's an inyan of Ein Sof. It's like the concept of a kiss, which is Ein Sof, but it's actually even more than the concept of a kiss. Because in a kiss, you have, the neshika is l'mayla me'oisius, it's l'mayla ma'agbala. The word of this mime, of Marava Masecha, is to reveal that be'emes, you have the Eibishter that's Ein Sof, even here, in Zman HaMokim, where there is a gvul, and you have the multiplicity, the ribuy of Nevrayim, and so much is chalkas, and you can look at it b'chitzaynius as Adarabah, this is the biggest gvul whatsoever, this is the biggest chalkas whatsoever, and Marava Masecha came to be Megala, that no, in this ribuy, you could Adarabah, this is an expression of Ein Sof, and of emes Ein Sof. So that's this gilui of this word that the Rebbe Rashab said. Let's continue inside. Then the Friediger Rebbe says, "Nois Yud Beis that once we understand what's the inyan of Ein Sof, lamata din tachlis. From this we can come to understand Goydel ha'ilui shaladarges shalamayla, the tremendous levels that there is above." Milamata adin tachlis, that's higher than the darga, that's higher than lamata adin tachlis. Shezeu inyan she'oyin yisoifu lamayla adin kates. The fact that the Eibishter is lamayla adin kates, k'mosh mevayir basifim shala achreize, as it's explained later on in the sifim of the Friediger Rebbe's Maimon Basi Legani, specifically in Ois Yud Zayin. There he explains the inyan of lamayla adin kates, that this is the koyach hahelim of the Eibishter, not the koyach hagilui, but the koyach that the Eibishter is nelam, totally concealed. This is the Oitzer Shalamayla that the Eibishter reveals to us, not only the Gili and the Spashtus of the Eibishter that comes into the world, but the Koyach HaHelim, where the Eibishter is concealed and removed higher and higher and higher. That is Nizgala to us here below. So this is all just a Akdama. Everything we learned this year is just a Akdama to come to the union of Ein Sof Lamayla Mayla Adin Kates. Okay, I guess we'll finish the Maimah tomorrow.